thou hast been, here or in your world manifest, canst thou tell what is, or what was, or what is to come? No thing shall last. And there are things that shall never change, never change. History's written in blood, yet are battles really lost on the battlefields. Canst thou tell me whence thou comest, and where thou goest, and what is, or what was, or what is to come? For everything remains as it never was.
After the fall of the Han Dynasty, China was a cluster of independent kingdoms. In 581 AD, Wen Di united these kingdoms through military conquest and declared himself Emperor of China. He forced peasants to rebuild the Grand Canal and the Great Wall. He did this to increase trade through the Grand Canal and increase military protection by rebuilding the Great Wall. The downside to this was too many people were overworked and overtaxed. Then, in 618 AD, they revolted, and the second emperor was assassinated, thus ending the Sui dynasty. Tang Dynasty. After the Sui dynasty was overthrown by the peasants, another family came into power, the Tang Dynasty. Under rule of Emperor Tang Taizan, he led his armies and conquered the north and west lands that were lost after the fall of the Han Dynasty. Once the conquests were done, Tang Taizan strengthened the central government. He had to make sure the government wouldn't fall, so he revived the old civil service examinations. Anyone could take these exams, but the wealthy could afford the education needed to pass the exam, so most of the time the wealthy people were the ones who got the high official jobs. To pay for the military conquest and rebuilding the government, the Tang had to impose crushing taxes on the people. This brought hardship to the peasants. Also, the Tang struggled to control a very large empire they had built, and in 751 AD, Muslim armies defeated the Chinese armies. And then Tang borders were attacked, and internal rebellions destroyed the Tang dynasty, and China was split into many small kingdoms. Song Dynasty. After the Tang was destroyed, General Taizu united the various kingdoms by military conquest and claimed himself the first Song emperor. After he claimed himself emperor, artisans and scholars created many great things. First was gunpowder. This allowed them to create explosive weapons such as cannons and grenades. Another huge thing was the compass. This was able to help trade by helping sailors not to get lost anymore. After he named himself emperor, he tried and failed to regain the northern and western lands that were lost during the decline of the Tang. He then paid tribute to nomadic tribes from the north. This failed, and they were forced to retreat across the Huanghe River because the tribes continued to attack and drive them out. They lost the Silk Roads and they had to trade by sea. Mongols were a large empire, they were a bunch of nomadic tribes that were divided into groups called clans. These clans lived on the steppe, a large grassland. They lived in tents called yurts, and were very good at riding horses because they herded cattle. In 1200 AD, a Mongol clan leader named Temujin defeated the leaders of the other Mongol clans, and earned the title of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan led the Mongols across the steppe and into the Jin Empire of China. His attention was then diverted to Central Asia, when Mongol ambassadors were killed by Muslims. He then led a campaign of terror across Central Asia and into Muslim territory. The Mongol army was well organized and they had very good equipment. Horse stirrups allowed Mongol horseback riders to be able to use their hands freely in combat. Another thing was silk. Silk helped the wound by stopping blood loss and preventing infection. Another big thing was how Genghis Khan organized his army into cavalrymen, brigands, and squads. Another key thing in the success of the Mongol military was how he used terror. If a city didn't surrender to him, he would slaughter everyone but one person. Then he would let that person go to spread the word of his cruelty, and other cities may be more willing to submit. This reduced casualties on the Mongol side. In 1227, Genghis Khan died, and other Khans continued his conquering, and they conquered Kiev, the rest of Asia, and the rest of the Muslim territory, and they ruled the biggest empire in recorded history. Assumed the throne of the Mongol Empire. He then conquered Tibet, Korea, and the rest of China. In order to rule China, Kublai Khan had to rule in the Chinese way, so he started the Yuan dynasty, and was a great ruler for many reasons. 1. He was the first to unite all of China ever since the Han dynasty. 2. The control the Mongols imposed opened up China to other lands for greater trade. This started the Pax Mongolia, otherwise known as the Mongol Peace, which started when Kublai Khan sent out his soldiers to put down thievery and bandits and regain the Silk Roads, which was key to Kublai Khan's empire's economy. But he made a costly mistake. He tried to conquer Japan. Yamato clan. Japan was never a united country until 400 AD. Instead, it was a cluster of small islands. The geography surrounded the islands with sea, and the climate was tropical. In 400 AD, the Yamato clan claimed to be of divine descent and established themselves as the leading clan, and later the emperors of Japan. They traded with China and Korea. Korea brought the ideas of Buddhism, and with this trade flourished to the common religion. Heian period. In 700 AD, the Japanese moved their court to Heian, and the Heian period emerged. Later, during this, landowners and clan rulers challenged the government as independent rulers. They set up private armies to challenge the government. Armed soldiers on horseback attacked villagers and farmers, and pirates took control of the sea. To counter this, the government came up with their own army system, the samurai. The samurai were fierce warriors who defeated the lords, but due to this, their economy was ruined because of the cost. Kamakura Shogun. During the 1100s, Japan's two most strongest clans fought for power. The Minamoto family emerged victorious. In 1192, the emperor gave the Minamoto leader the title of shogun, which means supreme general of the army. However, the emperor was merely a figurehead, as the shogun had most of the power. The shogun's headquarters was located at Kamakura, and they were even able to turn back Kublai Khan's fleet. But the cost to fight back Kublai Khan's fleet was too much to pay the samurai warriors. The samurai grew bitter and supported other rich lords. The Kamakura lost power and prestige, and other lords fought for power. This struggle resulted in the loss of contact with China. and ruining the economy. The Khmer Empire. The Khmer Empire is located in what is now Cambodia. The land is dense jungle and has a very humid climate. By the 800s, the Khmer conquered neighboring kingdoms and created the Khmer Empire. Improved rice cultivation led the Khmer to have plenty of food. They achieved this by building advanced irrigation systems, which allowed them to have 3 to 4 harvests a year instead of 1. Island trading kingdoms. Powerful kingdoms emerged on many of Southeast Asia's islands. A dynasty called the Salajah ruled an agricultural kingdom, a kingdom that depended on farming, located on the island of Java. The Salajah eventually fell to the empire of Srivijava. The Srivijava ruled by the Strait of Malacca and the waters and islands of Sumatra, Borneo, and Java. They also taxed people who passed through their territories. All this added up created a very great economy. Dai Viet. The Dai Viet emerged when the Tang dynasty weakened. They broke away from the Tang and became the Kingdom of Dai Viet. They blended Buddhism and Chinese culture and made their own ideas and followed the way of Chinese government. The Liu dynasty established their capital at Hanoi on the Red River Delta, and they traded and encouraged trade and agriculture along the river. Silla. The Silla dynasty was located in Korea. Before, Korea was a bunch of separate clans, and later was controlled by the mighty Han dynasty, who kept a military government in Korea. Due to this, Korea adopted Chinese ideas such as Confucianism, Buddhism, centralized government, and writing. During the Han dynasty, Korean clans began to band together into various federations. Eventually, these federations turned into 3 separate kingdoms. In the mid-600s, one of the kingdoms, the Silla, defeated the other 2 rival kingdoms, and the Silla dynasty emerged. The Silla defeated the Chinese and took control of the entire Korean peninsula. Koryu dynasty. Around 1000 AD, the Silla dynasty weakened, and a rebel officer named Wang Kong defeated the Silla and gained control of the country, and named his new dynasty the Koryu dynasty. The Koryu dynasty modeled its central government after the Chinese, and they established a civil service exam, like the Chinese. But there was a big difference between the civil service exam. Only the nobles could take the exam, so the wealthy got the best jobs. Later they faced a huge threat, the Mongols. The Mongols swept into Korea and demanded they pay tribute. The tribute was 20,000 horses, clothing for 1 million soldiers, and ships so they could invade Japan. This ruined Korea's economy during 1000 AD.